Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Susie Jane Designs. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Sorry about the unconventional setting for today's video, but it's summer break and the kids are home. So I have to just find the quietest place that I can to do this intro. And this is it, guys. So, anyway, it's kind of fitting though, because today's video, of course, is going to be back on the front porch doing more decor, and that's where I am. So, it works out good. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below and also the notification bell next to it so you can be notified every time I upload a video. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about today's video. I've been working on one of the projects for like almost 3 weeks now. That's how our life goes. Anyway, so I really hope that you guys like how it turns out, and let's just jump into the project. These are the supplies that you'll need from the Dollar Tree. You'll need one of their small hula hoops, one of their wire wreath forms, one of these little box picture frames, and some burlap ribbon. First, we're going to start by taking the shiny plastic design off of the hula hoop. You can take all the little beads out if you want. Mine actually spilled out. I forgot to mention that, of course, I did end up using 5 packages of the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and I also used this roll of burlap that I already had on hand from Walmart. It's like $5.87 for a giant roll. It's a really great deal. Anyway, so what I'm doing is just starting with the first roll of nautical rope, and I tied it onto the hula hoop, and now I'm just wrapping it around. And I'm repeating that process with all 5 of the nautical ropes. When I get to the end of one, I just secure it, tie it down, and tie the next one on and start again. When I got to the last rope, there was quite a bit of it left, but I didn't cut it off because I'm using it to tie the wire wreath form into the center of the hula hoop. Once I had secured the wire wreath form to the hula hoop, I'm going to go ahead and leave the rope attached to it, and I'm going to start with my burlap pieces. So I just rolled out a long piece. No, I did not measure it. And then I cut it, and then I folded it in half hot dog way. If you're a teacher, you'll appreciate that. It's not hamburger, people. It's hot dog fold. Anyway, so then I took the seam side and kept that facing up and tucked it into the middle wires of the wreath form. It's really confusing to explain that. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Basically, I just scrunched it up, mashed it in there as much as I could, and did that all the way around. Once I had that center portion in, I did actually tuck the loop part of the burlap into the outermost ring. You couldn't really show that in the video, but that's what I did with the excess fabric. Now I'm taking that burlap ribbon from the dollar store. I liked this one with the black polka dots, and you'll see why here in just a few minutes. And I'm just taking this burlap ribbon and I'm tucking it through that center ring of the wire wreath form, and I'm just continuing that process all the way around so that I can cover up all of that wire, making sure to overlap it each time. Once I got to the very end, I just flipped it over and tucked it back into itself on the back side of the wreath. If you live somewhere where you're not in a hot climate, you could totally use hot glue on this wreath, but hot glue melts for anything that's outside where I live. Now we're going to work on that little frame. First, I'm going to start by pulling the center piece out of the frame. Some of the paper backing was peeling up, which is totally okay. I'm gonna paint the back anyway, so I just peeled up as much of it as I could. Then I just took my sandpaper and smoothed out any of those rough spots. Now I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I'm just going to paint that entire background. I'm leaving the frame part black. You could tape this off if you wanted to, but I couldn't get to my tape at the time, so I was just careful around the edges. I did end up doing 2 coats of the chalk paint here to cover up that background completely because some of it was still showing through. While the frame is drying, I'm going to go ahead and take that center circle and I'm going to paint it. I did remove that block off the back you saw earlier because we're only going to be using just the circle part. I made sure to paint the edges as well, and I did do 2 coats on this also to make sure that I covered that completely. Now I'm going back to the frame and I'm using these sticker stencils that you can get from the dollar store, and I'm just placing that in the middle. And I'm tracing it out with a pencil so I can go in with my paint pen and fill it in here in a minute. Now here's where I made a whoopsie, guys. The paint wasn't completely dry apparently, so when I peeled the sticker up, it did pull the paint off too. So I did go ahead and fill it in with my paint pen, and then once my paint pen was dry completely, I went back with my white chalk paint and just touched up those areas where the paint peeled off. Now while that's all drying, we're going back to that little circle piece, and I'm using Waverly chalk paint in the color Maize. It's just a yellow chalk paint, and I'm creating a rim around the entire edge. You could totally sketch this out in pencil first and then go back and fill it in, but I don't have that kind of time, so I just eyeballed it. Now here's where it gets a little bit harder to explain. So I'm taking my small paintbrush and I'm making almost like a triangle, only I'm not going completely touching at the point. And the reason for that you'll see here in just a second. So once I get that somewhat rudimentary triangle shape, then I fill in almost all of it with the yellow paint. And I'm just repeating that process all the way around. This did not end up meeting perfectly in the center, which I was a little sad about, but my husband made a good point. Lemons in real life are not perfect, and I think it does give it that kind of homemade feel. And again, I did make sure to go around the edges of the circle with the yellow paint as well. I felt like this sign was a little too pretty, if that makes any sense. So I'm going in with my antique wax from Waverly, and I'm just going around the edges and dragging it in, kind of doing like a dry brush just to antique it a little bit. Then I took my E6000 and put a little bit on the corner of the frame and attached the lemon. Once that had dried for about an hour, I then flipped the sign over and used some twine from the Dollar Tree to hang it from that little sawtooth hanger on the back of the picture frame. I just tied it on and then positioned it in the middle of the wreath where I wanted it and tied it onto the wreath. For this next project, I'm using this cedar fence post that we had on hand already, but you can use whatever scrap wood you have, and I'm using an exterior white paint. So I'm just painting the entire board, the front, the back, the sides, all of it in this exterior paint. Once the board was completely dry, I measured out the biggest part of the board is 35 inches. So I measured down in 5-inch increments. And now I'm just going back with my ruler and measuring out an inch above that 5-inch mark, if that makes any sense, because I want each letter on the sign to be 4 inches tall. Now I'm just going in with my pencil and drawing out each letter in the word welcome. I did decide to just go ahead and freehand this, but you could definitely use your printer and print it out and trace it on, or if you have a vinyl cutting machine, you could do it in vinyl or make a stencil or use stencils that you have already. There are many options for this. Once I was done with that, I just came back in with my black paint pen and filled them in. Once my paint pen had dried, I came back in with the pencil and just erased any pencil line. Once I was done with that process, I came in with the sandpaper and just sanded it down to distress it. Even though that did bring through the wood grain a lot, I still wanted to distress it a little bit more. So I'm going back in with my antique wax from Waverly and just distressing around the edges and here and there in the middle. I made sure to do the sides of the sign as well, since you will see that, and now this project is done. That's it for today's video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, and I can't wait to share next week's video with you guys, as long as everything keeps going off without a hitch here, okay? Is that how you say it? Off without a hitch? On without a hitch. Off. Anyway, I'm excited! As long as everything goes as planned, next week's video should be pretty cool too. So, until next time, I'll be seeing you. By the way, guys, I have red popsicle in my hair. I'd like to blame that on the baby, but in reality, I did that. I spilled red popsicle in my hair. And then I told our oldest daughter, I guess it's a good thing that my hair is already red. I wonder if that's a good beauty tip. Dye your hair with red popsicles. I don't think it would work for people that have really dark hair, though. I can't imagine that would be successful. Maybe like if you had super blonde hair, you could pour red popsicle juice on it. It's weird. Anyway,